So now let's try another example. So we have this one here of factor x squared minus 25. And we're going to do that same process again, just like we did before. Again, leading term, x squared. This time a negative 25, so I'm going to put negative 25 here. Go ahead into my table. Again, a times c. So I'm going to take my a. Now, if you notice, a is in front of the x squared. Where's the other x? So if there's nothing there, that means that b is going to equal to 0 since we don't have it. And this is my constant number, so this is actually going to be my c number. So what happens is now I have a 1 times negative 25 for this box, so I get a negative 25. Now, for your sign rules, when you guys are multiplying, you either have to have a positive and negative or a negative and a positive multiplying. So now I'm going to write down my factors. So 25, I have 1 times 25, and then the other combination I have 5 and 5. Now the idea is this. Out of your numbers, when this is negative here, it's always going to be one. So one of these is going to be negative to make this true. Which one can possibly be negative, so that way it cancels out and gives me a 0 here. So if you take a look, 1 and 25, the closest I can get towards 0 is 24. If I take a look at this and make one of them negative, I can get this 0 term here. So I'm just going to make this one negative for this particular example here. Okay, so that's the only possible way I can cancel it out. So what's going to happen is this. I'm going to take my two terms. I'm going to put my 5x, my positive 5x here. And I'm going to take this term and put my negative 5x here. So 5x minus 5x gives me 0. So that's why they're going to cancel out. And now I go ahead and do my little reverse factoring here. What number can I factor out? I have two numbers. I can easily factor out a 5 out of here and then a 5 out of this one. So 5 is my first one, a positive 5. What can I factor out of here? Since this doesn't have a number, the only thing I can take is I have an x squared and an x, so I just take out an x. Take a look here, I have an x squared and a 5x. I don't have a number with this one, so again, the only thing I can factor out is another x. Here, so if you take a look, they both have a negative. So what that means is I can take out easily, I can take both their signs of the negative and factor out a negative 5. And then what happens is now our answer, our factor form is going to be down here, and we're going to look at how that looks here. But let's go ahead and do that diamond method. Diamond method ignores all this. You have this piece. Now I have a negative 25. What's my b number? So b is going to be 0. So out of these two, which one can possibly give me 0? So that would be a 5 and again a negative 5. So double check. 5 times negative 5, negative 25. 5 minus 5 gives us 0, and that's how we check it here. So these are my two little factors here when, again, a is equal to 1. Now my answer, my factored form, is I'm going to have, going from here, x plus 5 is my 1 factor, and x minus 5 would be my second factor. Now, are these the same? Take a look at the symbols. So since they're not the same, I can't combine it like I did the other one, so I have to leave it just like this. And that's how we factor this particular one. Let's do one more example, and then you guys can practice on the next slide, so the next 5 problems afterwards, just to get some practice in. So the first thing I want to do, same steps, type in your leading term. So I have my x squared. My ending term is a negative 18. So again, go through my little setup here. Here's my a, here's my b term, here's my c. So again, a times c, 1 times negative 18, so negative 18. Now this time I'm just doing my factors at 18, so that's 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6, and that is it. Now, out of these ones, which one can I possibly get the 17? So 3 and 6, if I add it, I only get 9. If I add these two, I can only get 11. If I add these two, I get 19. So this one looks like I have to subtract. 18 minus 1 gives me 17. So that's the only one that can work. But how do I get a negative sign and a positive here? Well, what happens is the sign of this B number, so the sign of this has to be for whatever that bigger number is. So out of these two, this is my bigger number. So that's going to be positive, that's going to be negative. Okay, so this is how it works. If I do 18 minus 1, I get my 17 here. Now, I put in my little factors. I put my, and again, doesn't matter where I put it, negative 1x. And then I'm going to put my positive 18x here because I'm trying to get this x back. And then let's go ahead and factor out. What can I factor out of each one here? So I have an 18 and a negative 18, so I can easily factor out 18. I have an x squared and a minus 1x. Don't have common numbers, but I do have these common x's here. So I can easily factor out 1 because I can pull 1 out of this one and still be good, and pull this one from this one and I still have my x. Take a look at this one. X squared 18x. Factor out an x. And this part. Now I have a number. I have a negative 1 and negative 18. So since they're both negative, I can easily pull the negative away. And the only number that they have in common between 1 and 18 is a negative 1. Diamond method. Taking my numbers, so negative 18, 17. Again, kind of going through this process of figure out what numbers can work. So 1 and 18. If I do 1 times 18, that's positive, but this is negative. The only one that can possibly work is I have to make this positive, this negative. Negative 1 times positive 18 gives me a negative 18, but negative 1 plus 18 will give me a positive 17 down here, and that's why these two will work. Okay, so again, two different methods. One is kind of very quick and simple, and one is kind of just working with your factoring and working backwards. So this way, I have my x plus 18 as one factor, and x minus 1 for your second factor. And that's how you factor quadratics with these two different types of methods. So what we want you guys to do for today is just practice on these types of equations, picking whatever method works best for you. And then so that way tomorrow we can practice on these in class.